about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host again today, and this is episode 119, where we're going to be talking about how indie devs can improve production management. Now, there's a lot of things that indie devs need to focus on during development, but sometimes there can be so much that it can often be difficult to determine what needs attention and what doesn't. Thankfully, our guest today provides us with some helpful concepts, ideas, and strategies on how to improve production management, regardless if you're a solo dev or working at a small studio. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, we're back, and today I have Tim Robinson of Waking Oni. Tim, how's it going?
It's going now that I got coffee.
Yes, coffee's always important. Awesome. Well, Tim here, like I said, is from Waking Oni. He's currently making this with a small team called, what is it? It's Onsen Master, correct?
Onsen Master.
Onsen. Oh, I should know that. But
Onsen.
Onsen. And just tell us a little bit more about yourself, the game, and what you have, going on for yourself right now.
I am one of the lead designers in project, along with Derek Fields. He is the other lead designer and creator of Onsen. And he's the project lead is usually what I tell people he does. My main responsibility is on the project management side, where I kind of tie everything together, get all the tasks and sprints set up. Personal work, I tinker around with some other little games. I make a board game right now that is killing me. It's killing my soul. And I am also on the 8th ranked team in the world for a VR shooter called Onward.
Wow, 8th in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We
just fought the number 1 team last night and got slapped. But we did our best.
We did our best. That's awesome. And so from all that, though, it sounds like you're pretty busy. Do you have anything else in your personal time you like to do? Or you're just playing a lot of that, VR shooter? I would assume so if you're 8th in the world.
Yeah, it's mostly that my schedule is really up and down right now.
Yeah.
Because it's very packed with this board game I'm submitting. This board game I'm submitting to a publisher right now. So I have to spend 90% of my time working on that. And the VR stuff I've been not playing the past 2 weeks because of the board game thing. And that's how it's sort of like my side hustle has taken over my life just for the moment for the submission. But typically it's, I do the VR team is like a
like more leisure,
like a serious. Well, it's
yes and no.
I take it like a job.
Okay.
Because we have to do training.
Oh, yep.
So there's mandatory practices and then a scheduled game a week. And our team is the one team in the league that usually plays the most games in a season.
Okay.
Which actually I can tell you. Let me pull this up real quick. This is the VRML, the VR Master League. I'm on a team called Ember. So last season we did. Let's see here.
So as you're looking it up, it sounds like you just really you're hardcore dedicated to a lot of this stuff and doesn't leave you too much free time for other things.
Zero free time. We did 27 games last season, 14 wins, 13 season. Now to compare to the number 1 team in the world, they played last season 15 games. So we did nearly double the amount of games.
Wow.
However, they were 13 wins and 2 losses.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right, So let's get right into the Q Box round then. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Q Box, it's a series of random questions I've prepared for Tim, and we're just going to go speed through them. Tim, please, if you can, short answers, but if you want to elaborate a little bit to provide some context, feel free to do so. Are you ready for the Q Box round?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna ask you these questions regardless. So,
damn it.
I'm sorry you're not ready. Here, we'll start off with an easy one: Final Fantasy or Zelda?
Zelda. I have to go with Zelda because it's always been much more personal to me. I don't know. I think it's just something about the fact that I connected more with Link in some way.
Okay.
Than I always felt like the Final Fantasy games were someone else's story.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love those stories, but I never necessarily felt like I was them.
Yeah.
Whereas Zelda always made me feel like I was Link on an adventure for some reason. Maybe it's just the way the gameplay works or the camera style and all that.
Yeah. I could see that.
Who knows?
If you could speak only one word for a day, what would it be?
Spicy.
What's your favorite anime of all time?
I have two that I usually cite, which is Berserk, the old one, not the god-awful new one, and Utena.
Okay, nice. What's one of your biggest gaming pet peeves?
Biggest gaming pet peeve is... Now I wrote this one down, but it's not succinct. It just the way people react to things on the internet for a game property, all of the vitriol around anything. Like they patch the game and they did something I don't like, or I mean, a good recent example is the new Pokemon that came out. Everybody was mad that all of the old Pokemon weren't in it. And the development team had some excuses. The fans tried to dig up why those excuses were lies.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? The development team said, this is what we're doing. This is the game we're making. Here it is. And people got so mad at them. And I'm like, you know what? Like, the outrage makes me not want to even interact with anything, any part of the community anymore. And that makes me upset. This happened with the first Division game too. I actually had a really heavily downvoted Reddit post. It was like one of my first Reddit posts, and it was me defending the game developers for some of their design decisions and how difficult it is to make a game. And everybody's like, no, it's not like that. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess, what do I know?
So just all those content updates, regardless of where people are on the fence.
Well, not just content updates, but the way I think the gaming community is so
just the reaction,
like outrage focused. Yeah, outrage focused in the gaming community really, really upsets me.
Okay, cool. What's one of your childhood fears?
You.
Very much of impact on Tim over the years.
I used to be terrified of horror movies. Like, couldn't even walk down the horror movie section of a Blockbuster. I would avoid it as a kid. I would avoid it.
I could relate. I could totally relate.
Oh man, it used to freak me out.
Yeah.
It used to really freak me out. And then over the years, I think Evil Dead Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness made me start being like, okay, there's some entertainment value here. That and a movie called Dark City, which is one of my favorite movies.
I love Dark City too.
I remember the trailer for that movie used to freak me out. I was like, this is some scary stuff. And then I watch it, I'm like, it's just a sci-fi mystery movie. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Good choice.
But yeah, I used to be freaking terrified of that, of horror movies.
Horror section of Blockbuster. Well, you don't have to worry about Blockbuster or any video store.
Oh yeah,
anymore, so you're safe. All right, last one. What's the most inspirational game that you've played recently?
This was difficult to think about. I made a note here talking about how actually my hand in VR just deactivated. I'm trapped. how the VR space in general has been inspirational. It's weird because the more that I play it, like the headsets are 3D, right?
Yeah.
Like my brain is so connected to it now since I compete in this game that the 3D-ness of it almost doesn't even hit me anymore. Like, it's like there's a disconnect, and playing Onward competitively, it doesn't wow me anymore. I think that it's there. I am actually still very inspired by the gameplay potential of VR. And every time I do get into a match, I still have little moments of, wow, there's no way to do the same thing twice because of my body's motions will never be precise the same way. It's not like a typical, what we call pancake game, where like in Counter-Strike, you can throw a grenade by looking at a pixel and letting go of the button, and the grenade will go in the same spot every time. In VR, you can't really do that.
Right.
And it's neat to think that those experiences that are going to get made by me or somebody else in the next decade are going to be things we've never seen before.
Yeah.
That was one thing. And then other than that, general game-wise, the recent Doom game, Doom 2016, is such a, I feel like is a strange response. Because I don't know how many people would cite Doom as an inspiration to them.
Yeah.
But it's not the fact that it's not the whole gameplay of ripping and tearing that is inspirational. It's the if you go watch design talks with the lead designer on it, he breaks down how they ripped apart and redesigned that game, because they had made a Doom 4 that wasn't very good. Like, it was a good game, it just wasn't a good Doom game, which there's a lot of neat videos on that too. But this one, they came up with this gameplay design, and this has been my philosophy on design for a few years now, where it's the find the fun mentality of like distill it down to what its base essence is. And what Doom's base essence were these little room arena experiences where basically you enter a room, enemies spawn in, and now you have a battle with them. And the battle requires a certain pacing. The rooms you're in are part of the fun, where the pacing is combined with the weapons you have, the abilities you have, the physical structure of the room and how you navigate it, which enemy configurations are dropped into that room, because it will affect how you're dodging and navigating them.
Nice.
And the flow of their glory kill system, where if you do enough damage to something, you can just press a button and run over and literally rip them in half with your hands. But as fun as that is from like a visceral standpoint, it gets this sort of almost like musical beat flow to the game.
Yeah.
Where you move, you shoot, you grab, you rip, you move, you shoot, you jump, you grab, you rip. Like it has this rhythm to it that like you can't help but enjoy.
Right, and probably from a gameplay experience, like you said, enjoy, but it kind of gets you in sync and the groove and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It just it really boiled down to like what I had gotten into with the outrage thing in the previous question.
Yep.
I think that people have a very difficult time sitting down and just letting themselves have fun with a game. Yeah. And I think that Doom is one of those games where they set out to make a fun game, and when you sit down to play it, like, yeah, you can sit there and nitpick the lore or the like physics or you know how things work in that world or whatever. But when you get down to it, the game is just fun, undeniably fun and well put together.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you provided some context around that too, because like you kind of called out. Oh, I say Doom, and people are like, "Wow, this guy really just likes." Okay, he likes Doom. That's fine.
Yeah,
but no, you give a lot of good like just the sheer fact of the attention to detail and how much that goes into it, and some of those points you made, I think could be pretty valuable for people to consider, especially with their own game development. Maybe not quite to that like that level of detail for obvious reasons and resources and things, but still just to be mindful of those things is really cool. And you're right. Not most people would pick a game like Doom to be an inspirational one. So I think that's a good choice. So
that's also one of the biggest things about my game development journey too, is people need to not underestimate